Welcome! Welcome everyone to your first context lecture for U.S. history. I'm really excited to talk about Puritans with you and to kind of get into the reasons why we are moving in the direction we are for this class. So, without further ado, let's get started. The first thing I want to do is a land acknowledgement. Whose land is it anyway? It's not the Puritans' land. It's not the Europeans' land. For centuries prior to European colonization and eventually American colonization, indigenous people lived on this land for a long, long time. And so we are going to try and start every lecture with a land acknowledgement for wherever we are talking about. And so today we're talking about Massachusetts and New England. And so the main tribes that lived in that land before the Puritans or any European colonizers were the Pequot and Wampanoag tribes. They were the people who lived long before the Puritans showed up, and they still live in that region of the United States to this day. So I wanted to acknowledge the Pequot and Wampanoag Indians in this lecture and in this context, because the Puritans do play a role in the dwindling of population and the harm that is done to those tribes in those regions. So that is our land acknowledgement for today's context lecture. But let's get into understanding the Puritans a little bit more as we move into this upcoming week of content. So we have to talk about Christianity in Europe. We have to talk about the Church of England, the separatists and the people who oppose the Church of England, why they left, and then where they went. So, the Church of England is the Anglican Church. The Church of England, the Anglican Church. Those things are interchangeable terms. And they are different from the Catholic Church, as I'm sure you know from Mr. Jameson's class last year. There are differences between Protestants and between Catholics. The Church of England, the Anglican Church, are Protestants. But within the Church of England, there were separatist movements that were created that opposed the very hierarchical and very patriarchal ways in which the Church of England did things. Now, that doesn't mean these separatist groups did not have their own version of hierarchy, did not have their own version of patriarchy. They very much did. But they were separatist groups and had different ways of viewing the world than the Church of England. So, the Pilgrims were the first group to split completely from the Church of England, having no desire to be in it anymore. The time was ripe for them to go to the New World and to create their own separatist colony of just pilgrims. Pilgrims are the separatists. There are a difference between pilgrims and Puritans, and that's the main one. The Puritans maintained their status within the Church of England, whereas the Pilgrims completely separated themselves from the Church of England. So, in 1620, the Pilgrims head on over to the colonies, the continental United States, and write out what is referred to as the Mayflower Compact. That's one of the most significant and one of the oldest documents in American history. The Constitution, the Declaration, used the Mayflower Compact as a model because this was the first version of a constitution in representative democracy coming to the New World from the Old World. So the Mayflower Compact is an important document as it is the first representative democracy. But, little side note, representative democracy only means a particular group of people. First off, if you look at this image, what does everyone look like? And then think about representative democracy in that sense, that it is for a particular group of people. It's not truly representative, which we will continue to talk about in the future. So the Pilgrims come. They have a bit of a tumultuous time in the Plymouth colony, the winter of that year, but they eventually get through, and as a as a sign of success, we see a big influx of Puritans, the brothers in arms essentially of the Pilgrims, not quite separatists, but still having religious issues with the Church of England. The turmoil in England brought over a huge influx of Puritan migrants. So, who's leading this group? Where are they going? John Winthrop. He is the leader of the Puritan influx into what is the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Eventually set up the Massachusetts Bay Colony, and John Winthrop and his ragtag team of Puritans, here they are, they move into this new land for them. And this painting is definitely a rendition. Post any Puritan landing, it was not, I'm sure, this triumphant or spectacular. They were not all that put together. They had just spent months on a ship crossing the Atlantic Ocean, and I'm sure they did not look as clean and nice as they do in this image. So don't let the image fool you. But I say that there's a difference between Pilgrims and Puritans, but what are Puritans? What does that mean? You may hear someone refer to another person as puritanical. What does that mean? So the Puritans and Puritanism were Calvinists. Calvinism is a version of Christianity that has some particular tenets that make it quite unique. So two of the big things, that make a Calvinist or a Puritan, is this idea of predestination and the idea of original sin. Predestination being this idea that God has chosen them, predestined them to be, one, followers of God, and two, settlers on this land, occupiers of this space, making it a new place for essentially God to come home to rest. The Puritans truly believed that they were creating, as you'll see in the speech, a city upon a hill, or some form of utopia. And that's a big theme within Puritan culture. And as you read through the speech, a model of Christian charity, in which we see the phrase "a city upon a hill," this idea of utopia really come through. So keep that in mind as you read through the speech by John Winthrop. So predestination. The second concept is original sin. That human beings are born with an inherent flaw, an inherent badness, something that they cannot get rid of because it is ingrained in what it means to be a human. Now, there is a way that you can escape this, according to Calvinists and Puritans, and the way that you escape this is through a conversion experience, creating a quote-unquote covenant between you and God, forming this perfect union between humanity and divinity. So, the Puritans on one hand thought all human beings were born inherently sinful, inherently bad, but a true conversion experience could change all of that and bring unity between God and man. So, that's a really important part to understanding Puritanism. Another big part of Puritanism is the emphasis on community. So, they did not have a big sense of individualism. They had this idea that God predestined them, not necessarily me, predestined us, predestined them to go create this ideal world of uniformity and hierarchy that pleases God to God's core. So, that is the basic ideas of Puritanism. I want you right now to take a second to pause and to come up with 3 questions that you have about Puritans. These can be discussion type questions. These can be just like, I don't understand what this concept means. But before you can continue the video, you need to ask 3 questions. Go. All right. Hopefully you were able to ask those 3 questions. Hopefully I'm able to answer them at some point. If I'm not, please ask me in class. So, to this idea of utopia, um, what is a utopia? I want you to think about that for a second. Take a minute right now, pause. What is a utopia? So, can everyone fit in a utopia? That's the next big question that needs to be asked. The Puritans, were they a perfect society? Of course not. There were individuals that had to be exiled in order to keep this utopia a utopia. So, Roger Williams believed that there should be a separation between church and state and a freedom of religion and community. The Puritans did not believe this. The Puritans believed that there needed to be a state set up in which God is at the center. This is called a theocracy. God is at the center of this ideal state, this ideal world. And Roger Williams challenged this idea and was banished from the community. Anne Hutchinson, a woman, held Bible study groups that emphasized that anyone can connect with God. Anyone can have this conversion experience, not just a predestined group of English Puritans. And she was also exiled from the community. And then finally, uh, Native Americans, indigenous people, cannot be part of the Puritan community. Why? Well, first off, they're not English. And second off, they cannot be converted to Christianity because they are pagans. They are heathens. And also, the Puritans needed an excuse for more land. And if you humanize this group of people, these indigenous people, then you cannot proceed to expand out uh, if these people are humanized. And so it was God ordained that these indigenous people be slaughtered and moved out of the way in order to benefit the Puritan community. So, all this to say, the Puritans are a very complex group of people, but are important to our history in the United States. In order to understand American history, in order to understand where this idea of community and individualism, the idea of exceptionalism, particularly American exceptionalism, eventually the idea of God-ordained manifest destiny, and creating a more perfect union, uh, America being a city upon a hill, are all things that are referred to throughout American history. And a lot of this language comes from puritanical culture. This idea of uprightness and holiness and community that is perpetuated throughout our story. Now, Puritans believed that slavery was wrong, but it was still legal within their communities and societies. And so this will get us into our next conversation as we compare Puritans and this idea of utopia and this perfect world that they desire to set up, how that translates into how the United States desires to set up a perfect world, or a quote unquote more perfect union, as we will learn about further, all while also keeping slavery at the center of a lot of these conversations. How can you have a perfect union? How can you have a utopia when there are those who are excluded? That's a very big question, and one that I'm going to continue asking and exploring with you. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and email me. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you soon.